Call the meeting to order. I'd like to begin by acknowledging that we are in Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis Nation. I'll introduce the panel members first. To my left is Linda McFadden. To my far left is Cynthia Stevens. The assessor today is me, Jonathan Dolinsky. The administrative assistant today is Huda Aziz. And I'm Marcel Larondo. I'll be chairing. We'll be hearing applications for revision of the assessment rule in accordance with the Municipal Act. The matters for which revision is requested have been described in each application, and we'll limit discussions to those matters. The statements that the applicant or the assessor make at this hearing are sworn testimony, and anyone speaking to the matter must be sworn in. Be advised that comparisons of assessment of properties are not considered evidence of market value by the Board of Revision. The Board of Revision is appointed annually by Council and is independent of it and the City Administration. It makes its decisions on the basis of evidence provided at this hearing and issues a written order that was mailed to all parties as soon as possible. Please note that the Board's decision with respect to an application may be appealed to the Manitoba Municipal Board if the matter pertains to assessed value or classification, or the Court of Queen's Bench if the matter pertains to the application of exemption from taxation. Should you wish to appeal, information on how to do so will be included with the Board order. With respect to the hearing process, I will confirm the matters to be addressed with each applicant following the swearing in. We will then have the assessor's testimony followed by the questions that the applicant may have, and then the applicant's testimony followed by questions. Each side will have an opportunity to summarize if they wish. Once all the evidence about an application has been brought forward, the applicant may leave. The process will repeat for each item on the docket today. The session will close after the applications have been heard, and the Board will deliberate in private and make its decisions. You will receive the order by registered mail as soon as possible. As information, all public hearings are live streamed, recorded, and are part of the public record. Swear them in, please.
Would you like to affirm or swear? Please state your full name.
Jonathan Dolinsky.
And you swear the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Please stand. Would you like to swear in or affirm?
Swear.
Okay, put your hand on the Bible. Please state your full name.
That's an easy making of the answers.
And do you swear the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you.
Jonathan, when you're ready.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-381, roll number 02020036-500. The address is 775 Henderson Highway. We have a vacant commercial parcel here. The land area is 17,247 square feet. My recommendation is to change the assessed value to $470,000.
Reason? What are you changing to get to the 470?
This is based on a sale that has happened. It's post-reference. It's included in the evidence from the applicant. I don't know if we want to speak more to the
No.
sale, but that's based on
Don't have to. Are you okay with the number, Mr. Aziz? You are? And there's any questions from the panel members? None?
Nope.
Okay, thank you very much. You have a great day, Mr. Aziz. Thank you, Jonathan. You've got the dollar amount?
Would you like to swear in or affirm?
I'll swear, please.
Please state your full name.
Arthur McCooley?
And do you swear the evidence you represent is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Thank you.
When you're ready, Jonathan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. File number 19-1165, roll number 0307066000. The address is on Waller Avenue. We have a vacant commercial parcel. The land area square footage is 5,113 square feet. Recommendation is to confirm the assessed value of $194,000. Just turning to page 3, please. Have an overhead view of the parcel. It's on Waller, very close to Pembina Highway. The bottom of page 3 shows a overhead view of where it's located. Turning to page 4, please. We have the breakdown of the subject property, and at the bottom of page 4 are my 4 comparables. First comparable is found at 921 St. Mary's Road. It's also a VCOM sale from the 29th February 16. Land, square footage, very similar to the subject, and we have a rate of $36.95. Second comparable, 113 St. Anne's Road, also a VCOM. Square footage, very similar to subject, 6,044 square feet. Sale price per square foot comes to $41.36. Third comparable is found at Corden Ave, also a VCOM, 11,909 square feet. Square foot rate for that sale is $52.06. And last comparable is found at 421 Glasgow, also a VCOM property. Square footage for the land is 19,520, and the sale price per square foot is at $38.42. Just in reference to these comparables to the subject's assessed value comes in at a net rate of $37.94. That's found on page 5. So please refer to that number when looking at the comparables, and that is my brief. Thank you.
Do you have any questions of the assessor, Art?
I do. The subject property is zoned RM1, but all the comparables are zoned C2.
That's correct.
Yeah, that doesn't seem to be a good comparison. You're comparing a residential zoned lot to commercial land?
Yes, it's zoned for RM, R2. It could be used for commercial as well.
Well, it's R1M, it couldn't be used for commercial. I mean, it has grandfather use, but if that site were ever to be redeveloped, it's essentially an accessory use to a commercial site. So if that commercial site were ever to be redeveloped, this becomes a house site, not a commercial site, with the R1 zoning unless they rezone it. So it is, in fact, a single-family residential site. The other thing I'd draw your attention to is the comparable sale properties are really old. Like one of them is May 14, the other one's August 2012, and with the effective date of the assessment being April 1, 2018. You know, some of these sales are 4 or 5 years old, and there's tons of commercial sales. You know, why would you choose sales that are so old?
I felt these were most comparable to the subject. In regards to your zoning question, if we refer to page 4, this zoning also will accommodate medium commercial, club rec building, commercial adjacent, or sorry.
That's land influence.
Yeah.
Oh, that's land info, okay. Yeah, we have it zoned as vacant commercial, so
Well, you do, but it's
Yeah.
not according to your sheet. It says it's it's residential, it's R1.
it is currently zoned as R1.
Yeah.
I don't have any R1 comparables on me, sorry.
Have you had an opportunity to have a chat, the two of you at all, or?
No.
I'll take the the blame for that. I made a clerical error, and I wanted to submit my findings that I had written. I diarized this report, that I had to submit my report by December 2nd, and lo and behold, the hearing date was December 2nd, so I'm here just to present oral arguments. So I hate to just throw this at the assessor at the last minute like this, but I'll take a bit of the blame just for my own mistake in that regard. But when it's time for my turn to present, I did bring some comparable sales that I can speak to.
Okay, no further questions then?
So,
Cynthia, do you have any questions?
Well, that was going to be my question, so I think it's been addressed, because obviously that's commercial on Pembina Highway on the right side of the photograph on
Yeah.
top number 3, correct?
That's the property
Yeah.
that's tied to it.
And then, but then right next, I mean, there's a back lane and then it's residential, so it would seem to me, and it is zoned differently, so that was my question, so that's all I had, thanks.
That was mine as well.
Let's hear what you have to present to us on it.
Well, I did look up some residential sales in the immediate neighborhood, and I was able to identify 5. I did print my rebuttal. I don't know, I know I'm obliged to just present orally, but I could certainly give you a copy of what I'm saying.
You okay with that? Sure.
Okay.
It's a rebuttal, so.
Yeah. So these are the sales.
You got copies for everybody, or?
I do, yes. I didn't know if I'd be allowed to give them to you.
You are now.
I am now, okay. 1, 2, 3.
I need 4 copies.
4 copies?
Yeah, one for the file as well.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
So if we look on page 1, the first comparable sales, 34 St. George Street, which sold post-reference date, but that's the registration date, October 3rd. So the actual transaction would have been negotiated very close to the April 1st date, and it sold at $17 a foot. And it's the same zoning, almost the same dimensions. And the second one, same thing. Sold for $15.52 a foot. It sold for $92,000, just slightly post-reference. 230 Hindley Avenue, a bigger site, sold for $16.57 a foot. We have one on McIver, which sold for $24.84, and one on Hull Avenue, very similar, which sold for about $21 a foot. So you can see the median average of the residential sales was $17 per foot, and the mean average was $18.98 per foot. So I also looked at some commercial zone lands that were more recent than the ones used by the assessment department, and even they exhibited $17 median, and pardon me, that's incorrect. But you know, you can see that even they are more in the 20s than in the 30s. But that argument was more intended if we weren't looking at it as residential. So I wanted to look at it both ways, but again, it's my position that it should be compared solely to residential properties. And I do have a critique of the comparable sale properties used by the assessment department on the following page, on the second page of my document. And it mostly pertains to the comparables all being superior, fronting on arterial routes. And the fact that because they're very old, I just don't think they're very good comparable sales. So in light of the zoning, the R1 zoning, and in light of the comparable sales used by the assessment department being, in my view, inappropriate in zoning and inappropriate in sale date, I would ask that the assessment be lowered to something more befitting a residential lot, and the assessed value based on $20 per square foot would be $97,100. Or pardon me, on $19 per foot, which is essentially the mean average of the residential lot. Slightly higher than the median average of $17. And that's all I have.
Jonathan, questions?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned this site is used as on-site parking. Do you know who
Right.
parks on this site?
I believe it's an office building, and Chicken Delight customers are on one corner. So it's not designated parking. It holds about 10 parking stalls, and it seems to be parking for a nearby office building. And I think Chicken Delight customers spilling over into that site as well.
Okay.
But it's bounded on the east side by a public lane, so it's not contiguous with the commercial site. It's a standalone parcel with its own zoning, its own roll number. And again, just to belabor the point one last time, if this property were to ever be developed, it would have to be developed as a single-family home or get rezoning. And you know, as such, I think it should be treated residentially.
Okay, thank you. And on your front page, these numbers that are on each lot, what are these numbers?
The, on my grid here, the roll numbers on the left?
No, the dollar amount value?
Oh, that's just an image from the assessment rolls. So those are how, just the assessed values of the surrounding property.
Okay. Are you using that as evidence?
No, it was just to show the position of the subject property.
Okay.
Those assessed values around it, like the 272,000 right next door, of course, that number includes the house that's on the lot. So they're not indicative of land values, just total assessments on surrounding property.
Okay, thank you. And what would you say is your best comparable here?
Best comparable, I would say, would be the first one, even though it's well, they're all really good comparables. I'd say number 1 and 2 are excellent comparables, and number 4 would be the worst one because it's way outside the area. So 1, 2, 3, and 5. So they would range from 1552 to 2097 per square foot.
Okay, and you mentioned the first two are post-reference?
Post-reference, by registration date, certainly. As far as the actual, I didn't search the transfer document, but I suspect if I pulled up the transfer document, there might be a 1 or 2 month lag between the date of the offer and the registration date. So it's just slightly post-reference. And they're all R1M and very similar in size. And these weren't, I just want to say, these weren't cherry-picked. These were literally the 5 I had to work with in the reference I wanted. So I didn't have, you know, really high ones I could chuck out or really low ones. Like this was what I had to work with here. And they aligned very, very nicely.
Okay, thank you. I have no further questions.
Linda?
Just a quick question, well, a couple. One, do you know what this land is behind?
You know, I don't. I think it might be part of the, would it be part of the Safeway site? There's a Safeway
Okay.
site right
Because
there.
it does look, in the aerial photo, it does look like it's parking area
Yeah.
for commercial. And secondly, your comparables, do you know their location? And the reason I ask is because this particular lot is in very close proximity to commercial.
Yes, yes, no, you're.
Whereas these other ones might be, you know, purely residential in the middle of a block somewhere.
Yeah, you're right, and I did pull up each one of them and look at them on the map, and I didn't think there was much to comment on.
Okay.
But when you make that point, it's quite true. If anything, this one, its proximity to commercial use would diminish its value as residential lot. So
Okay.
you could reasonably argue that it should be at the very low end of the range, whereas I've put it more at the upper mid part of the range.
Okay, thank you, that's all.
Cynthia?
Just quickly, so since your first 2 comps here are post-reference, the last 3, I do not believe the first 2 streets are in this same area as the subject. Is the last street in, do you know, or
Yeah,
none of those 3 in the same area, or?
Waterford number 2 is in the same
Yeah,
neighborhood.
except that it's post-reference. so-
It's
yeah.
post-reference, but just slightly post-reference. Hindley and Hull Avenue are in St.
Tell, that's what I.
in a really similar sort of mainstream residential, similar age, really good comparable. Number 4 McIver is a whole different part of town,
Yeah.
you know, I was kind of desperate for proper dated sales.
Okay, that's all I had, thanks.
I guess I'm following up on Linda's question.
Excuse me.
The ability to have a commercial lot would actually increase the value, would it not? Where do you say it would decrease the value?
Yeah, well, as a residential lot, you know, when you have to put a house on it, most people would want their house further away from a chicken delight and an office building. You'd want to be mid-block or on a nice quiet residential street, so. Excuse me. So by residential standards, I would say its value's diminished by being flanking a lane next to a chicken delight.
Is that a city lane next to it, or is that a private lane? Because it's assessed.
On the right side of his.
Yeah,
I believe it's just the back lane, is it not?
I don't know, there's an assessed value on it, that's why I'm wondering.
Yeah, that is true, there is a roll
is?
number
Where?
for that. I do not know,
There's a roll number on the back lane.
I'm not sure exactly what's going on.
Excuse me.
Do you know what the, why there's a roll number on the back lane?
Oh, there? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I did attend the site, and when you're there, it just feels like a public lane, but clearly,
If there's a roll number, it's not usually a public lane.
That's interesting.
right, and it kind of comes to a conclusion there, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm, it doesn't go anywhere.
So if you went to the site, so is that a dead end there?
Yeah.
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 Yeah, okay.
It does kind of look like it's, that's
Wraps
applies
around
just to
there.
this,
Yeah.
right? Because
Mhm.
there's lot lines around it there.
Yeah, being used by the commercial,
Yeah.
and that's what ties the all those three properties together.
Huh.
And it's been grandfathered for years, this piece of property,
Yes,
as commercial.
but of course, it's only commercial now. Like if we're talking about, you know, with ownership rates being essentially in perpetuity, when this thing comes up for redevelopment, or if it, as a standalone property, it's a house site that the neighboring commercial people are using as an accessory use as a parking lot. But it is a residential building lot and should be treated as such, in my opinion.
So it's one of these two buildings that must own this property.
Yeah, I don't know. I believe it would be the office building. I'm doing this for a gentleman who, by the name of Mr. Young, I believe. But he didn't order assessment reviews on any of the other properties. He just wanted me to look at this standalone property and see what I thought, and I thought it
Can
was
I
oversized.
ask one more question?
Yep, I'll let you do it. Yeah, you go ahead.
Oh,
and then-
sorry, when you're
No,
done.
you go ahead, I can come back.
Okay, I was just wondering, what would you feel is the highest and best use of this property?
Building a house.
House?
Yeah, because, I mean, highest and best use ultimately always comes back to zoning. And without rezoning, the highest and best use of that is as a house. If vacant, the highest and best use, I mean, you can argue that as an accessory use to this, I mean, they're not getting income from the parking. It's not metered parking, it's not monthly parking, it's just people are using this residential lot to park on it. So it's not an income-producing parking lot.
Do you feel it could be used as an income producing parking lot?
I don't. Suburban parking lots, once you get beyond a radius of the downtown, you just never see paid parking lots anywhere in the suburbs.
Thank you.
Is this property up for sale?
No.
This property it's always been looked upon as the same thing as commercial by the city.
Yeah,
This is the first time that it's been appealed.
I believe so. And I think erroneously, I think because of the par use code where it's being called VCOM. And I guess that, I think, is where it got off-site, that it should have been called VRES. So
What was
I
it?
think it's the par use code that had them on the wrong.
What was the previous assessment?
I don't know. That might be, Is that on your
That might
material?
pick up whether it's being picked up as R1 before. Do you have the previous
I don't
assessment?
have it.
Yeah, and I don't have that either.
These ones are always tricky to deal with, because if it was purchased for commercial use,
Right,
and they got the commercial use at that time
yeah.
for parking, that's what it should have been assessed as, but they never changed they left it as R1.
Yeah, I suspect the R1 would allow for accessory parking, like no improvements, no income as an accessory to the building. But again, it's more a case where somebody's letting you park on a residential site. It's not a piece of C2 commercial land, and it shouldn't be compared to C2 commercial land fronting onto St. Anne's Road and St. Mary's Road. That's completely inappropriate to lump it in with properties like that. It's fronting onto a back lane. You can't build any commercial structures on it. It has like no relation to the comparable sales use in the assessment.
Is the office building that's using this the building that has 1345 on page 3 of the
Yes,
assessors?
I
Okay.
believe so.
That's Mr. Young. I've got no further questions. Leave it with us, and you'll be hearing from us.
Oh, thank you very much.
That concludes the matters for today.
That was a nice short
That's the
day.
shortest
I like
email.
those.
Uh,